does, and the New York Times swingometer has that likelihood well into the 90% range. I'm joined again by Dr. Sean Cox from the Başakşehir University in Istanbul. It looks like it's going to be Donald Trump's race. Let's have a look at Florida. That was one that we were all looking at. That was one where most of the polls, I think, suggested that Hillary had some advantage, and yet Donald Trump won it. And we heard all these stories about good turnout from Hispanics, the surging population numbers there, the demographics being against perhaps the Republican candidate. But again, that didn't work. Who didn't vote for Hillary in Florida?
Well, as you indicated, the polls had seemed to suggest that Secretary Clinton had a lead in Florida, but the margins were so close to the error point that it's very difficult to say. And as for those who didn't vote for Clinton and chose to either stay home or to vote for Trump, we're not really going to know until we crush the numbers after the election. But it's likely that it was Hispanic members of the middle and the lower classes that were expected to gravitate towards the Clinton camp, who have not stepped up, as the case may be.
We're just hearing the possibility, I think confirmed that the state of Georgia has been called for Donald Trump. I'm not sure how new that is, but that seems to be confirmed. Let's look at the Rust Belt, part of the so-called Blue Wall, reasonably safe Democratic states. They're not looking that safe tonight, are they? Wisconsin is very shaky. Michigan ain't great, rather justifying how much effort Hillary put in the last days of campaigning. What on earth has gone wrong in those traditionally Democratic states?
Well, there are two factors here. The first factor is the strategy of the Trump campaign in abandoning the cities, the urban centers, and focusing on the suburbs.
But the cities dominated by Democratic.
Cities are dominated, right? So he gave up any chance of winning the cities, but that still leaves the suburbs and the rural areas of states like Michigan, like Wisconsin, even like North Carolina, disaffected, working class and middle income, primarily white voters, seeing if they could capture that vote, and it seems to be that strategy has been working.
One of the things he was selling hard up there was this notion of getting jobs back, bringing them back home. Clearly, the market reaction to the possibility of a Donald Trump presidency is very negative. In economic real terms, he's got no chance of bringing big-scale manufacturing back to those states now, has he?
No, there's absolutely no chance that any of the promises that he's made about reinvigorating American industry are going to happen under a potential presidency. But the voters, they're not looking for details. They're looking for promises.
He didn't give them details,
that's for sure. That's for sure. He absolutely did not. They're looking for the hope. And they seem to have placed their hope on who they perceive to be a person who is a good businessman, a successful businessman, rather than a Washington insider.
But presumably they will quickly learn that he was just saying what they wanted, desperately wanted to hear. It's not going to take long, is it?
No, it won't take long at all. And if Trump does manage to pull out a win tonight, and we have 4 years of his presidency, I doubt he can salvage anything that he's promised in the 4-year term, and it may be a very clear indicator that he'll be a one-term president.
Yeah. There was a statistic that caught my eye earlier today about the makeup of the American electorate. In this election, 69% of the electorate are broadly described as white. In 1980, it was 88%. This is a fast reducing constituency. Still a majority, you might say, but a constituency that you could understand feels a little bit embattled and under threat. And they don't quite like the idea of being a minority, because that eventually will happen, right? In this country, the whites will be in a minority.
This is likely to be the last election where a white majority will have the vote, given current demographics.
And he's clearly tapped into their irrational fears about the way their country is changing.
Yes, yes, he has. But on the other side, the Democrats haven't been able to coalesce around the minorities. They haven't been able to bring them together to support a Clinton presidency.
Exactly, because as this white vote diminishes, it was going to get more and more difficult for a Republican candidate to ever win.
Right, but that doesn't seem to be the case so far this evening.
Because Hillary's been such an abject failure in triggering the enthusiasm of the votes that she needed.
Yes, her campaign has not done a very good job in communicating her likability, her experience, and her connectivity to the average person.
On this question of Trump and promises and lack of policy detail, in the mechanics of assuming the presidency and assembling a team, how short a honeymoon period might a Donald Trump in the White House have? Pretty short, I would say.
It'd be quite short. It depends on who he selected for his transition team. Based on advisors that he's had over his campaign, we can expect to see some old faces from the neocon side of politics, maybe some new and upcoming young neocons, but they'll definitely be conservatives, and it will be very much reflective of the type of politics that we had during the second Bush administration.
What about the Republicans who will presumably continue to dominate the House and perhaps the Senate? Will they seek to, limit his weirder policies, do you think?
Under our system of checks and balances and separation of powers, there's not a whole lot of independence that the president has anyway. He's going to have to learn very quickly that he has to work with the House, he has to work with the Senate to get any chance of having his policies become reality.
So there is a chance that whatever policies he does come up with, there will be his sort of weird enthusiasms for eccentric ideas might be sort of limited by other branches of the government.
As much of an outsider as he is, if he does manage to pull off a win tonight and become our next president, then he's going to have to learn very quickly that he's not going to just brush aside the system that we have in Washington.
All right, Dr. Sean Cox, thanks again for sharing those views with us. As we get the sense, Kamali, don't we, that the possibilities, remote as it may have seemed a few months ago, of a Donald Trump presidency is inexorably getting closer. Back to you.